Hello, today I wanted to share an example of positioning of grid items using named areas, using the property grid template areas. So here we have a very simple grid, and this header, main, footer, and sidebar were defined using the grid template areas property for the container and the grid area property for each item. Okay, and let's see how this is done. So this is our markup. We have our HTML container with the class grid, which contains 4 divs. Each div has class 1, 2, 3, 4. And then what we do, let's take a look at our CSS. So CSS, it's pretty straightforward. Again, box size and border box. You guys can read about this. Again, some styles on the body, and then 2 main portions for this layout, for this technique. And the first one, we target our container grid. We give it display grid. Then we define our template columns. It's 4 columns, each 1 FR. Then we define our grid outer rows using min-max. And min-max, it's a function. Basically, it says make each row, keep it at the minimum 70 pixels. Like don't make it less than 70 pixel. And the outer, so it can grow, but it cannot be less than 70 pixel in height. Okay. So then what we do is we use this property called grid template areas, and all these words, header, we define it. It's called grid item, grid area property. So we use grid area property so that we can refer to it in a template we create with the grid template areas property. Okay, so this is our template. This is our property for the children. Okay, so grid area, this is a property for grid items, which are children of this grid. And the way this is done is we define our template. This is our template by using the names of our grid areas. So first one, we gave it the name of header. So what we see here is header. So it means we ask this area to span 4 columns. It's going to be spanning 4 columns, 1 FR, 1 FR, 1 FR. It's all going to be header. Okay, and then next row it's going to be main, and our main is defined here, grid area, we call it main, and then we say main, and then dot. All grid cells should be filled actually for the grid, but if we want to leave the grid cell empty, then we put dot inside that cell. It's dot or period inside that cell. Okay, and then the next area is sidebar, and sidebar we define here, grid area sidebar. Okay, that's pretty. And then the last one is footer. If we go back here to our grid template areas, we ask footer to be footer in all. So it's going to be 3rd row, and in all 4 columns it's going to be footer. So footer, in other words, will span from column 1 up to column 4, and it will occupy all 4 columns. Okay, that's pretty much how this is done, but let's just check how it looks in the Firefox Inspector. Okay, so this is our grid, and this is our rules for that grid. Okay, so our 4 columns, 1FR, this is our columns, and then this is our min max for the rows, and then grid template areas. Okay, so we defined header, 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 so we ask header, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, then main, we wanted to span on a second row, so main, main, then this is our dot or period, which gives us empty cell, empty space, blank space, and our sidebar, we put sidebar at the last column, as you can see here, and then the third row is footer, 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 footer. So it's footer, 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 footer. So that's pretty much how this works. Just the basic concepts of this, and you can guys Google it and read more about how to use it in the actual layouts. And just to experiment a little bit, what we can do is, so what if we add like more text in this area? Let's see, I'm gonna try use this VS Code lorem ipsum shortcut. Let's see. So if we type lorem ipsum, say 150, we press, gets enter. Oh no, I think it was. Okay, yeah, it's just an enter. Okay, so let's see what happens to our grid. So it's lorem lorem and then 150 and then enter, and it should work. Okay, so let's see what happens with the grid. Okay, as you can see, it grows, the area it expands, and the grid also expands. Just to adjust to the content. Okay, so that's all I wanted to share with you guys today, and yeah, as always, thank you for watching.